Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I just saw some footage on Isaiah Collier, and the reason why I wanted to do uh, a video here on Isaiah Collier, at least to just kind of give my little 2 cents, because I really haven't studied him very much, is because the Lakers have him somewhere usually in the range that we're supposed to be drafting at 17. Now, of course, the Lakers could draft and trade. They could trade before someone else drafts. They could keep the picks. A lot of options the Lakers have, so there's no guarantee we would even go that route at all. Um, and I made a video earlier telling you guys exactly who I think the Lakers should take. Who is Deron Sharp? That's going to be the first guy on my list of names. Second guy is probably going to be what's his name? I can't think of his name, but a small forward that I like as well that may be available. But Isaiah Collier, is somebody that we're projected to be in a position to take. And if the Lakers do take another point guard, I want to at least have on the record what I thought of him. I like his pressure on the rim, but it's no explosiveness as it pertains to dunking the ball. So in that regard, he reminds me of JHS and D'Lo Russell. I think he puts a lot more pressure on the rim on the run as far as running downhill than D'Lo ever will. But as far as him not having that dunk power, he's not looking to be explosive off 2 feet or nothing like that, or off of one leg. It's more so a bunch of layups and stuff like that. But he really does have a lot of stuff going at the rim, which it pertains to you think he can get to the line a lot. And when we talk about putting pressure on the rim, it ain't just about dunking the ball. It's about drawing defenders to you by rushing at the bucket. And he's going to be one of the best in this draft at that, because he plays at such speed, in the open court and in the half court off of ISO situations. His first step is pretty quick, and he's always looking to drive. He's looking to drive. I think it's going to take a lot of development to kind of work other things into his game. His three-point shot is a bit stiff. Not somebody that's going to be doing too much shooting early on, but I think he'll be able to hit the three enough to create the space necessary for him to operate. He's great in rhythmic situations. I think he's a really good feel player as it pertains to the pace of a basketball game and the rhythm of how things should go. Making plays for others. He's like a percussionist out there. It's all rhythmic and very, very reactionary, and I like that aspect of his game. He's a pace creator. He's good in the fast break. He's somebody who you could see step back 3 rhythm there for him. He's going to have to work on more moves that create space for him in the mid-range, and not being robotic with those moves. I think that's what I'm sensing early on. It's kind of robotic as it pertains to stuff that creates space for himself. But as it pertains to live ball situations in a fast break, once his handle comes around to where it needs to be, because he's a little herky-jerky, his intentions and his not the intentions, but his instincts is the word I'm looking for in the open court, I think will be great in live ball situations. Absolutely fantastic in live ball situations. Picks up a loose ball and makes a rhythmic play for somebody else. Picks up a loose ball and runs and gets to the rim. I mean, I think he's just really going to be gifted at that. I look at Isaiah Collier, to be honest with you, and I say his ceiling to me is higher than some of the guys that I think are better than him, but his floor is pretty damn low as it pertains to him disappointing you if you're expecting for him to become a superstar. And that's why I think he's in our range. If he puts it all together, his natural gifts and ability is going to make for some exciting basketball. He's good at flashy passes. He's going to be a showman, somebody that you like to watch play. And you can see with some of the things that he does where there will be a night where he has 30 points and 10 assists. You know what I mean? He's not going to be a superstar, but he is going to be somebody that can do some damage from the 1 or the 2. And his size, I think at 6'6", can put him in a position to play some 2 ball, although he doesn't have the arm length that makes you excited. On the offensive end, I think he's the type of player where I'll bring him in, and I don't expect for his ceiling to be higher than Colin Sexton. But if he works hard, you can see a day where he's above that. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. Maybe not even make an all-star team. But he does look like a guy who's going to be a starter in this league during his prime. I think he's going to probably play from behind people early on. I think he's going to be a bench guy for most of his career. But there are going to be some years, maybe 2 or 3 years out of his career where he's probably going to be the starter on the team. Now, the question is that team winning? And that's the concern I have about Isaiah Collier. To me, it looks like what he does and what he's good at may not necessarily cater to a whole lot of championship playoff success, but he can be a fun player at the point guard position on a bad team if he's running that point by himself. Now, if there are other superstars on the team and he's coming off the bench as the 7th guy, 8th guy, you can be a part of something really nice, especially if they have a need for what he specifically does. So I look at him as a role player, potentially capped off at high-level starter. But to me, the thing that I like about Isaiah Collier and what I took from watching his highlights was he's the type of player that if I have great development coaches and I have patience, I'm optimistic that we could turn him into something better than what his projection looks like, because of the type of instincts that he has and the type of speed that he plays with. But he's the kind of player where if he has any type of injury that sets him back with his speed, or any type of injury that sets back his development, then you pretty much got a career role player for certain. That's the thing. It's like there are guys who are naturally gifted and they need a whole lot of development, and I think he could be considered one of those guys, rather than guys who are just completely and utterly genius at the game of basketball, and even if they lose some speed or some dynamic athleticism, they're still going to be able to pick you apart. I don't look at him as that type of player. He doesn't stretch the floor like that. He doesn't have defensive tools. He's not a good defensive player yet, but there are highlights where he does some extraordinary defensive things. So it's one of those things where it's like, I think the ceiling is maybe higher than one would project if he can put it all together and stay healthy for the first couple of years of his career. That's going to be key. You can't have any setbacks with the bum knee or something like that pulls him away from the game for 6 months, 8 months. As long as he's healthy and he has the right coaches around him, he has the right shooters in place, he has athletic bigs like Dallas has. I would love for him to be Kyrie's backup right now. You know, come in and be the point guard behind Kyrie and Luka. That way he'll have second unit time with guys like Green and Hardy and Hardaway. I think that's a good situation for him. You don't want him running a team right now, but the tools that he has can make other offensive players around him better. I think his passing and his dynamic speed that he provides, if you're sitting down a Kyrie, you bring this guy in, you're playing at the exact same speed. So that's the type of situation. I don't know if I want to put him on a team like Washington or something like that doesn't have those players yet, because then the defense gets to hone in on the fact that he is kind of looking to drive and not really do a whole lot else. Everything he likes to do is within him being able to drive at the rim and then from there create either passes for others, dump off to bigs, dynamic passes to cutters and stuff like that. So you want those players already in place so that his piece makes more sense, in my opinion. He does create for himself to a degree, but he's going to need those other players on the floor to draw defense away from him so that he can have his one-on-one opportunities to drive at the rim and then kick out and do those type of things. So I'd like to see him in a situation where there's already talent in place. I do think he's a high development project, but a team like Portland that doesn't have those pieces, or a team like Washington that doesn't yet have those pieces, is not the team for him, in my opinion. I would much rather him develop in a situation with vets. I've been hearing a lot about the Miami Heat potentially being a team that looks at him. I think that can be potentially interesting, having him play with guys like Tyler Hero and Tate play next to Terry Rozier. Obviously, Jimmy Butler is potentially out of there, but I do think he could be an interesting Haitian, and I think he could develop there. Of course, they have that rule where you got to stay in shape, so I think that's a good situation for him because everybody around him is going to be playing well at a high pace. Jaime Hawkins, I like that type of situation for him potentially. The type of role he would have if the Lakers were to take him, in my opinion, could be potentially substantial because the Lakers, whether we like to admit it or not, are likely about to be in a point guard deficient situation. When you consider JHS is likely not going to be ready to really contribute, D'Angelo Russell is likely out the door. Depending on if we're getting a point guard, as to which this pick would probably be included in acquiring that player, the Lakers could potentially need a point guard. Maybe not as much as we need a center, but maybe more so than we need wings. And that, for me, is frustrating because I would rather not use the draft pick on a point guard. But if for some reason the Lakers are thinking that way, Collier and JHS are a little too much alike for me, in my opinion. I think Collier may have a higher ceiling than JHS at this point, but I think JHS is a better defender, better metrics. Collier's fast. To be honest with you, they could play with one another, but they both play under the rim, and I think that's been a problem for the Lakers, having a lack of athleticism on the floor in general. Some of the only people that we really expect to high fly act are basically LeBron James and who's the other athlete? Jackson Hayes. So those are the main athletes on this team. So for me, Isaiah Collier continues to reinforce something that I've been complaining about, which is we got layup guys. We got a bunch of guys that are laying the ball up, not really getting above the rim, and I think the Lakers need more above the rim play at all positions. So that's another reason why I kind of steered clear of Isaiah Collier for the Lakers. I just think that you want your piece to be able to be two-way, and I don't look at him as necessarily two-way naturally. He's an offensive player that may be able to string together some really nice stops at times, but that's not his gift at all. So these are the things that I'm looking at in regards to Collier, and I say he's a very specific piece. You want him playing with vets, in my opinion. You want him coming off the bench for a point guard that knows what he's doing, with good development coaches in place, but also superstars and players already in place ready for him to go. So that's my vision for this player. I wouldn't mind seeing him in Milwaukee, even though I know Milwaukee has other needs. With as many games as I expect Dame to miss, I do think that he playing behind Dame could potentially be interesting. Playing alongside Dame could potentially be interesting. Playing with a guy like Giannis, he's going to be great in open court with a guy like Giannis, finding him and getting lobs to him and all different types of stuff like that. So that could potentially be interesting. Let's see, maybe Philadelphia could be interesting as well when you consider they have a needed point guard potentially behind Tyrese Maxey. That could be an interesting situation. Him and Maxey in the front court could be fun. Joel's a guy he's going to get the ball to a lot. And that's one thing I can say. If the Lakers were to get Collier, I think he would be great at helping Anthony Davis get the ball. That's one thing I think he has an instinct for, is looking for his bigs. And that's an important trait for our next point guard, potentially. You definitely want somebody who has the mentality of making sure that the star gets the ball repeatedly. And I think Collier looked like he looks for his bigs and likes interior passes that get the bigs the ball. So, that's important. I look at this Laker team specifically and I say, I don't want to give up this pick on a point guard. But given the fact that I don't have a whole lot of faith in JHS and or may have to trade JHS in whatever trade we make, if we're not bringing back a point guard and we do get rid of JHS and we do move on from D'Angelo Russell, we're going to have some point guard issues next year. Asking LeBron James and Austin Reeves to play the point guard position is ridiculous. And I know a lot of people want Austin to play the point guard. I've been on record saying I think we should let Austin run some point guard, but it can't be something that we're relying upon full time. Austin is not a point guard. Austin can play some facilitating roles and stuff like that, but you're gonna want your point guard on the floor, um, and you're gonna want him to be a two-way player that can probably play above the rim with some speed. So Isaiah Collier only checks off the speed box for me in that regard. He's gonna be fast, but does it translate to him being tough and defensive and explosive? Nah, not really. Not at all, actually. So I wouldn't put him next to Austin Reeves necessarily at all. So, my point of view, and I think I trust the scouts, they're probably going to pass on Isaiah Collier, even though he's due to go at 17. I just don't think he's the right fit for the Lakers as currently constructed. Now, if we move pieces around and we have a different dynamic, if we have a need for a player that puts speed into this situation, a need for a rhythmic type of player, that could be great, but you would be switching a lot of things around from what it is right now in order for that need to be on the forefront of what you're doing, and I don't see a path to that at all. So that's what I want to say, man. I like Isaiah Collier to probably slip past the Lakers. I don't think anybody before 17 is going to see him as a priority over some of the other pieces that are out there. So I see him going probably somewhere in the mid-20s, early 20s, probably mid-20s, to be honest with you. Just depending on teams' needs and stuff like that. Who trades up or down could determine a lot for Isaiah as well. Maybe a team finds themselves in this situation that you don't expect, because I hear Brooklyn could be trading some players to get into this draft, so who knows what Brooklyn may be wanting to do. So that type of thing is possible, basically using them as an example. So yeah, man, I like the idea of having a player who can do the things Isaiah Collier can do, and having a lot of intentional coaching being poured into him. That's what I want to say. Who he is today, he can get so much better if coaches spend a lot of time with him and he's put in the right role, surrounded by the right vets. You can look up 5 years from now and he could be so much better than what I described. That's the type of player he is. He has much more upside than some of the guys that will probably be taken before him. In my opinion, some of these dudes, they're kind of already who you expect them to be. You don't expect some of them to get much better than they are. He's not like that. He has the makings of somebody who could be molded into a all-star, but you just don't expect, with his limitations, that he'll actually reach that level. But if he puts in the work and he has the right coaches and he gets good health luck out of his career, then he's going to be better than expected to be. That's the player Isaiah Collier is. And I don't say that about many players in this particular draft. You pour enough into him and you're going to get back more than what you expect. I really believe that. Because he has some things you just can't teach rhythmically, flash-wise, and he just looks like a well-conditioned athlete for the most part, who's going to be fast. The one thing I can say about him that I haven't mentioned is that he makes other people look like they're moving in slow motion with the speed that he has. And if that translated to defense, he would be so much more touted as a prospect this year. But because he doesn't move side to side laterally or have a gift for the defensive side of the ball, it doesn't necessarily translate to what you would hope it would be. But if he gets around the right vets that could teach him defense, and he gets the right type of connective defensive players, he could be a part of a good defensive team, and you'll see him get stops. But the team around him has to be good defensively. So that's the thing, man. You want a good rim protector there with him. You want good wings that play defense. You want rebounding players to help him with that. And he can be the guy that puts pressure on the rim, driving repeatedly with floor spacers all around him. You see what I'm saying? That's the type of player. I could see him being good in OKC if Giddey gets out of there and he plays some backup point guard on the floor with some of those guys, maybe some secondary playmaking shooting guard type stuff. If he replaces Giddey, that could be kind of interesting to me. Not that they really have a need. I think about the point guard they have that they drafted last year, uh, that plays defense. Maybe he could play well alongside of him, that kind of thing. So, yeah, there's a position there I think for him if Giddey bounces. So there's a lot of stuff that I think Collier could potentially be of service to in regards to a basketball team. Um, Nothing more than him putting pressure on that rim and laying the ball up and getting to the line though. But he's gonna take on punishment, and he's gonna have to be patient with himself because he's gonna draw a lot of charges. Driving the way that he does, people are gonna plant their feet and they're gonna flop off of him a lot. So he's gonna have to not be one-dimensional out there. Um, but the tools are there, man. The tools are there for him to be a really good player. And once you see him out there, you can tell he's a showman. It's a flashy player, man. He's gonna be fun to watch, and if he gets the right situation someday down the road, maybe he does make an all-star team. I could totally see him being a 20 points, 10 assists guy if he puts it absolutely all together. Because I had the pace that he's going to play with, and because of the plays that he can make to talented bigs and slashers and stuff like that. So that's my take on Isaiah Collier, man. I wish he was more explosive in terms of dunking the ball. I wish he could get off the ground at like a 42-inch vert. That would make him crazy great. And then on the other end, defensively, I wish his defense translated to the speed that you see on the offensive end. And if it did, that would basically be an all-star right there. So everybody has their limitations in this draft. That's just the type of draft this is. And if we had a different situation, I do think Collier could go in the 17 range. But for my Los Angeles Lakers, we just simply have other needs. And we kind of drafted Isaiah Collier last year in Jalen Hood-Schifino. We kind of did. So that's pretty much my point of view. I appreciate everybody for watching BDF 44, and I'm out.